I'm sorry, allows anyone from the public to observe this hearing if they would like. And so it looks like that started now. The last thing I need to do is read through our hearing script. This basically will just cover the procedure of the hearing, and then we'll jump right into it. So this is the October 5th, 2022 session of the Zoning Hearing Examiner docket. My name is David Sturkey. I'm the Zoning Hearing Examiner. I'll preside over this hearing. The case before us today is case number ZH20220148. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any opposing parties to testify and offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the Zoning Hearing Examiner. All testimony or evidence that an applicant or any opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. Basically, I just want to hear some background about the project, what exactly you're asking for, why you think it's appropriate for this hearing, and why you think I should grant the relief. I'll then go to anyone from the public. So in this case, Mr. Marshall, I'll give you an opportunity to provide any testimony that you would like. I'll then go to our zoning plans examiner, Trey Sheldon, to provide any testimony in addition to his staff report. I'll go back to Mr. Dickerson to allow him to respond to any of the testimony that was given, and then allow him to make any closing remarks. After all presentations have been made, I'll close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude testimony that I think is irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt speakers to ask questions or to make comments. Let's see. I may also refuse to consider hearsay evidence. That's generally evidence you want to introduce that consists of statements made by someone who's not present here today. It's discretionary. In the event of any technical difficulties with the video conferencing technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly, but if there's some problem or defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, last thing I need to do here is just swear in all of our witnesses. So if you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any comments, asking any questions, doing anything other than just strictly observing, then you need to be sworn in under the zoning code. And so I'm going to do that now. So if you believe that you will provide some testimony here today, if you could take yourself off mute, I need everyone to raise their right hand. I need everyone to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. All right, Mr. Dickerson, are you ready?
Yes.
Floor is yours.
Okay, so the long and short of what we're looking to do for the zoning relief is just add another greenhouse. It's a high tunnel. So the farmers that we have growing produce there, they've been growing produce for 10 years. And before that, it was the Barr family that's been doing it for 100 years. And there's a couple of the tunnels that were built many years ago, I don't even know when, that they're looking to take down and put another one in its place. And high tunnels are deemed a permanent structure in the zoning code for the city. And so we need to go through this process to put another one back up. So the plan for the remaining structures is, we were looking for, the potential. We have a couple structures in the back of the property. It's a 32-acre farm, half-mile long property lines on east and west. And we're down to 8 cows now on the property. So there's been cattle on the property for also many years. We'd like to eventually, over the next year and a half or so, add a little shelter for getting out of the weather for the cattle and also for storing hay. So that's the project in short term.
Okay. Couple quick questions off the bat. How many of these towers do you have so far on the property?
High totals?
Yeah, the high tunnel, sorry.
Yeah, I think there's 14.
Okay. And is this is just to replace one that is in disrepair, or?
Yeah, there's 2 that are in disrepair, and what we want to do is the guys. So we lease the front 6 acres to a group called Our Harvest. They grow local produce and they provide produce to, people in the Women, Infant, and Children program, SNAP, and Produce Perks, and they also sell to the community. They need another high tunnel for their operations. So they're looking they got a grant from NRCS. It's a federal grant of I can't remember how much, but it's basically a free tunnel. And in order to do that, they need, all the associate approvals to prove to NRCS they can put one up. So replacement is what they're doing.
So will it be located in the same place as an existing tunnel?
That's right.
Okay, got it. And is it roughly the same size and dimensions as the existing tunnel?
Yeah, they're actually taking down two, and the old ones, they weren't high tunnels because, Mr. Barr was a very handy person and he always built his own stuff. And they were low, so he had to spend all his time bent over. So there were two side by side, and where two were, they're going to replace one. So the footprint will be slightly smaller than the two that were there.
Gotcha. Okay. Will these be visible from neighboring properties?
They will.
Okay. And I mean, do you think that will create any adverse impact for any neighboring properties?
I do not. I just don't think the view will change. Where they saw a hoop house before, they'll see one now.
Got it. Okay. And let's see. You said you're also asking for a variance to bring in 13 new cattle. Is that right?
Well, we acquired the property last year, and it was a gift to the family because they had no heirs, and we're a land trust, so we look to protect property forever. So our goal is to keep this farm a working farm in perpetuity, or available for farming. So we as a land trust are going to save that acreage from being subdivided and developed. Yes. Hopefully the neighbors like that aspect of the project, but we inherited 17 cows, and that's a little too many for that property. And we're going to do a little bit better management. So we've restored some pastures to pollinator friendly pastures with native warm season grasses that will do better for wildlife and reduce the herd down to 8. But the carrying capacity on the place is probably 10 cows.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm sorry, can you tell me the net increase in cows from now until if I were to grant this?
So we're at 8, so we'll probably increase to 10 in a couple of years.
Got it. Okay.
Just a note, David, sorry to interject, but originally I believe that you said a max of 15. At least that's what when we first talked about it. So that's what I had in my staff.
And what that considers, and I forgot about that trade. Thanks. It's kind of a cow calf operation. So they'll have little ones, and then they'll be off the market within a few months.
The baby animals don't. The young animals do not count. It's adult animals in the code. So if you're asking for less than what I wrote, I apologize for the misunderstanding. But
no, that's right.
It's adult animals. So.
Yeah.
So it's just adult, Trey, because the limit under the zoning code is 2 adult cattle. And so
Correct.
Whatever you're asking for today should account for any cattle of 2. So that's really the number I need to write into this decision to allow for the permitting. So
let's leave that at 15.
Okay. All right. And so along with that, I mean, I grew up in Ohio, so I'm familiar with farms and the smell from cattle farms. I've never actually worked on one or grew up on one, but could you talk about what you're planning to do to help mitigate any potential adverse effects coming from additional cattle on the property?
So I can tell you we've already taken steps to increase smell and interactions with the community. The pond was in disrepair, and we were able to raise some money, and the pond was basically filled with sediment from runoff, and we have scooped out the pond and restored it, and we are not letting the cows in the pond anymore, which that was a loafing area for them. There's really no confined area for the cattle on the farm anymore. They do not go into the barn, and they are basically to stay back in the fields. And for the smell of that, what it is, it drops where it drops and it's spread out among the pasture. So, we do have some sites in the winter and where we drop hay, but we spread that out too. So there's really no site where manure will pile up.
Okay. And that's typically what causes the cow manure smell you'll smell when you're driving past the farm, is when farms allow the manure to pile up.
Yeah, they have they'll confine the animals to the same 2 acres all winter long and feed them there. And usually there's a structure involved, and that's usually that. But we are in an agricultural district. So, that's one of those things that was granted by the city a few years back that just says it's a working farm, and occasionally there could be a smell, but, we're not ones to just, not be cognizant of how we fit in with the community. We would fix it if there was a problem.
Okay. Great. I think that's all the questions I have now. I think we'll move on unless Mr. Dickerson, there's anything else you want to add before we move on.
So I will add that we did just acquire the 20 acres next door to us, and hopefully we'll have a big announcement, and it's going to be a new nature preserve in the city. It was owned by the Waldorf school, and it's 20 acres in between the Bar Farm and Winton Road on the southeast side of the property. So, our goal is to get this place in shape where we can have the community visit and see what a working farm is like, maybe a demonstration, and have, the few cows that we have as animal ambassadors, and have a nature preserve with a trail next door. So we have high hopes for the property.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Marshall.
Yes, sir.
What would you like to add?
Well, I've been here in this neighborhood for going 22 years now. And we have worked with Mr. Barr continuously. And when we first moved here, he had expressed that if his kids would not take over, I didn't get into personal information. He said it would be going to, I guess, a land preserver to take care of it. We really not had any problems with it. I grew up on a farm with my grandfather. He had 1,500 head of cattle. So the smell doesn't bother me at all. But you really don't have a smell unless it's, a really high humidity, hot day. And I thought he had more cows than 8, because I've always looked back, we've always seen the cows dotted across. And I'm thinking for the neighborhood itself, we really never had a problem with them at all. In fact, if there's ever been a problem, we can walk up there, talk to him, and give him a phone call. He's been very diligent to come fix those problems. And so, when we got the card regarding the zoning meeting, we just want to find out what's going on. We will, stand behind the farm itself. We've just had nothing but great words for the farm, and hearing the process of buying that property against Winton Road. That's the first I've heard of that. Back from I think he sold it to Wardoff, and I guess you guys bought it back. We have no problem with that. And the good thing about it is, if they will go ahead and expand the idea of inviting neighborhood kids over to see what goes on in the farm, especially inner city kids, that'd be a great idea. There's been 1 or 2 times when the cows have gotten out and the kids had no idea what to do with them. But once again, when they got out, I was, we kept them confined to my yard because I knew how to do it. And he came and got the cows, and he repaired the fence. And we found out what was going on. The kids were going back there. They were walking on the fence and pulling the fence down. When they did that, the cows got out. So at this point in time, we did not have that problem in about 9 or 10 years. So, that's something that he was very diligent to work with us to make sure everybody was, kept safe and kept happy. And other than that, I would encourage the city to, let them build the high tunnel, because you don't see it from the residents. You see it from when you're on North Bend Road, when you look back in it. But as far as the housing is concerned, there's no problem at all. As far as the lake is concerned or the pond is concerned, we live behind the pond, slightly to the right of it, if you're looking from my house, and we've never had any problem. The drainage has been always good. If there's ever been an overflow, the drains go right down to the sewer drainage, which is behind my house. So we've never had any flooding or anything for that process. So, I mean, they've been great neighbors, and we want to keep it that way.
You live on Scarlet?
No, I live on Venetian.
Venetian, okay.
Right.
Got it. All right. So in your experience, there really has not been any adverse impacts from the operation of the farm, or you don't believe that adding this high tunnel or this extra cattle will produce any adverse effects for the residential neighbors?
No, it would not. I mean, the load tunnels were there when you're, you can see the load when you drive up North Bend Road, you can see the load tunnels. So, I mean, it never bothered me, and it's never bothered any of the neighbors as they drive by, and you can't see them from Venetian at all. Like I said, more thing we see is just the cows. We saw that when they did go in and work on the pond, those things. So it's we've always considered over the past 20-25 years, we consider them a good neighbor.
Okay. All right, great. Anything else, Mr. Marshall?
Nope, that's all. Just we hope that it continues on, and we hope they do expand on the process of inviting neighbors, and I would love to be a part of that. And I'll talk to Mr. Dixon about that later on. But I have to get back to work, so thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Thanks for being here. Trey?
Sure.
Thank
Just
you.
a couple of clarifying points. One, we don't really, the zoning code isn't intended to restrict the number of young animals, or baby animals, just if they reach adulthood. A lot of people, for example, might, a much smaller operation than Cardinal runs, for example, someone might breed rabbits, for example. They might have a half dozen rabbits or something, and then once the little ones get old enough to be weaned, and then they sell them, and so on. Same thing with little chicks or ducklings and so on. And we didn't really anticipate restricting, calves. I just want to point that out. The reason that the large animals like swine and horses and cattle and alpacas and even ostriches and so on are capped at a max of 2 is because, frankly, in the code, once we went over that threshold from like smaller animals, like birds and stuff like that, you really have to have special management in order to handle it. And obviously, this is a unique, as Andy's described, this is a big property. I mean, there are places in Cincinnati that would technically qualify as a farm by having more than 20,000 square feet in agricultural use, but they're not a farm in the sense that this is, where it's been here for a couple hundred years, and the sheer size of it. So the reason that cap was in there, David, was because we were anticipating this could be more of a thing where someone only had a 3/4 acre parcel, or only half acre, you know what I mean? And they'd be at that 20,000, but we wanted to make sure that they didn't, on a technicality, go and end up having, eight pigs or something, and you know what I mean, in a smaller lot that was just only a little over 20,000 square feet. So even with the 15 cattle, and that's from Mr. Dickerson explaining that some of them would be young, which we don't even count the calves, but they have 2.5 times the mandatory acreage, for it. In other words, they have like between 45 and 50,000. I think it's in my staff report. It's between like 45 and 50,000 or something, square feet per animal at the 15. If they had 15 adults, so they more than comply with that, so they didn't need any relief there. It was just for the total number. The other thing to point out is that the high tunnel, normally with our accessory structures, we allow them up to 15 feet at the midpoint of the roof. So some garages, for example, or pole barns or something, might actually be 20 feet or something in height, because you only count halfway up the roof peak. These, to the crest of these things, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I put it in there's an example in there. And when I read through the specs on this, they're only 7.5 feet in height. So that barely accommodates a door for a taller individual to get through. And that's it. So that's not that this is 20 feet in the air. This is 7.5 feet. And when they come in for permitting for the like the hay storage, or if there's a little lean-to for some of the cattle for the winter months, I did want to point out that that'll be pretty far away. I think that was hundreds of feet away. That's going to be in the lower right, actually near where the preserve is going to be, where they acquired that land to the southeast. So any of the prevailing winds would actually, if there was any issue, prevailing wind would be going toward their own green space that they have purchased there. So, and there are no houses right there to the east or southeast of where that shed would be. And he will have to, when they come in for permitting for that, they will have to have compliant dimensions and not exceed the 15 feet of roof and so on in order to do that. So they just don't have plans drawn up for it right now. But they did leave a general locational indicator for you there on the site map.
You mentioned in your staff report that the farm is roughly 200 years old, or the farm use is 200 years old.
Yeah, I believe so. It's been like,
Pearson, is that right? I thought I heard you say 100 years. Not, I mean,
oh, I said, over 100 years. I think the Barr family. Same family, but it's been in a use. I mean, it's from what I understand from the history of it, the use has been there for, a couple hundred years since, 1800. So, and then the same family for about 100 years, the Barr family. So, then I did want to, the gentleman, I can't remember his name, but the neighbor, he had brought up about the fencing. Andy will be coming in for a certificate of compliance sometime in the next year or so on. And they have some funding to redo all the fence here. So there won't be any rickety fence or, any kind of, rickety barbed wire kind of stuff or anything that might be there now. It's all going to be replaced in I think Kentucky 3-board or something similar, or some kind of fencing like that that'll be sturdy and will prevent any of the cattle from escaping. So they'll be doing that during the next year. I did think I want to bring that up because the guy told a little story about the kids knocking the fence down or something. And there's going to be a stout fence constructed, and they are going to come in for a zoning certificate of compliance for that.
thanks, Trey. Appreciate your work on the staff report and testimony here today. Mr. Dickerson, anything in closing or otherwise before we adjourn here today?
Yeah, just for your information, this area is a big priority for Cardinal. So I'm participating in the Green Cincinnati Plan on the food subcommittee and the natural systems subcommittee. And this area is an area of focus for both of those. The historical food production nodes are in this area of Gray Road up to North Bend and on Wooden Shoe Hollow. And, we have high hopes to maybe acquire and protect more land there for local food production. The Green Cincinnati Plan is a big deal to us, and we're happy to participate and carry out what the actions they call for. I appreciate Mr. Marshall's comments, and we'll follow up with him because we're increasing our outreach to the local community now that we've added a gravel parking lot and people can actually come and visit the place. We have, and I wanted to tell him this, we have a meeting at Springfield Township for the community later this month to just talk about our plans and reach out to them. And we intend to hang flyers on the doors, but the northern acre of this parcel or this property is in the township and the southern 31 acres is in the city. So we'll have to reach out to the different neighborhoods to make sure that, moving forward, we don't want to do the development of this property to the community. We want to do it with the community. So, that's why people ask what we're going to do and we're like, we don't know yet. We're going to do this with people. Like for the pond, for instance, we want to allow fishing. I know the fire chief learned how to fish in the pond because Dale was a good steward of the land and let people come on there. We want to do that again. And we know fishing is a priority for some of the community. Well, let's go fish. So, this is the development of a neat project, and with the addition of our harvest and growing local food that local people benefit from, it's something special. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time as well.
I did have one other really brief clarification. That the additional 20 acres that Mr. Dickerson was referring to is going to be entirely a conservation easement. So it's going to be preserved in perpetuity as a natural area. It won't be expansion of this conditional use. I'm just explaining that.
That's right.
It's not going to be for agricultural use. It's going to be a natural area.
That's right.
That's true. Yeah, so I've had a chance to review the application materials, the staff report. Based on that testimony I've heard here today, I'm going to approve the application I need to formalize that decision in a written opinion, which usually takes about a couple weeks. I will, as soon as I finish that, I put it in a PDF and I email it to everybody who's in the hearing today. So you'll have a copy of it really just moments after it's complete. As soon as you have that email, you can work with Trey on the necessary permit. If you have
Okay.
any questions in the meantime, you can feel free to reach out to me directly. Or if you'd like an update on the status of the decision, again, feel free to reach out to me directly and I'll provide it to you.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Fantastic. Any other questions right now?
None.
All right. Thanks again. Good luck with the project. Sounds like an excellent thing for the community. And yeah, good luck.
All right.
Have a good
Thanks,
day.
guys.